Episode 6. Remember death? Audrey pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window and waited for dawn. One by one the stars in the night died, allowing newborn light to peer through the resulting void. It brought with it a new day, new hope, but she no longer trusted its deceptive rays. The morning brings me another trial. The night brings me nightmares. Audrey nearly slid off the windowsill. Her limbs felt limp, as if they had lost their bones overnight. I need to pull myself together. Find Cassiel. He'd better be kind enough to explain why the amulet reacts to nightmares. The gift on her chest no longer burned. Instead, there was only a pleasant coolness, but still, during the night, there was the amulet that had wakened her with its warmth. Audrey headed for the shower. She did her best to ignore the bed. That simple piece of furniture had become a repository of horrors, a place she no longer wanted to be. Practical red, lilac, airy blouse, floral print, elegant comfort. You challenge me with the colors. I must think. Airy blouse it is. Revisit your options or continue. After changing, Audrey fixed her hair. No, she didn't. Okay, that one's alright. Fine, if I'm gonna pick anything and it's for free. Continue. Cassiel didn't respond to the knock on his bedroom door. Audrey decided not to linger in the hallway. She went downstairs to the kitchen and brewed herself a cup of coffee. She decided to indulge in the small pleasure of enjoying the drink outside. The aroma of coffee mingled with the cool freshness of the morning garden. Bruno silently emerged from the shadows to join her. Audrey patted him affectionately on the head and waited for the wolf to settle at her feet. Audrey didn't notice how quickly time flew by. Soon the air was saturated with the warmth of the sun's rays. It embraced her like a dear friend. She basked in the soothing silence until a long-awaited figure appeared in the distance. You're out here more often than I am. Good morning. Cassiel pushed the empty cup aside and sat down beside her. I wanted to talk to you about the amulet you gave me. What about it? This morning it heated up while I was asleep. So much so that it woke me up. He blinked in confusion. What do you, dream about? My father. Is the amulet supposed to react to dreams? No, it's not. The decision was not an easy one for Cassiel. I will ask Somnus to take a look at your dreams. No, Audrey. It is necessary. If there's no other option, maybe he's the one sending them to me. Don't you think it's a strange coincidence, his abilities and my problems? He wouldn't stoop to that? Oh, I'm sure he would stoop to anything. You don't trust Somnus at all. Your relationship with him has worsened. What, is Somnus eavesdropping right now? The fact that the amulet heats up during sleep is very strange, Audrey. It would be foolish not to seek the help of someone who can actually do something about it. Can he really? Will he enter my dream and kill the monsters? He don't know anything about the dreams, Audrey. Mortals don't usually dream. But there are seers, and then there are those like Somnus. They don't just see dreams, they control them. And only God knows what else they're capable of. You know, that sounds like another reason not to let him near me. Cassiel seemed to have doubts of his own, so he didn't press the matter any further. Alright. He hasn't even agreed yet. Maybe we're arguing for nothing. Audrey picked up the empty cup and stood. Cassiel followed suit. Well then, let's go find out. There's no point in delaying things. but their plans were not meant to be. Mikhail was approaching them. Judging by the look of things, it was urgent. Mikhail stopped just a few steps away, spoke impatiently and with authority. "We need to fly now." "What happened?" "There's an unfamiliar presence near the spear. Raphael and David are already flying there. Audrey, you'll have to stay on your own for a while." Mikhail clearly had no time for questions. She could only guess what spear he was talking about. "All right, I understand." The tension spread to her as well. I don't recall them ever heading out on an assignment as a whole group. But Audrey sensibly regained her composure, and she didn't hold them back going into the house. She turned around almost immediately, but there was no one behind her anymore. That's because when he says fly, it means he picks up the big guy and flies. Remember, he's an archangel. The silence of the house often gave her a sense of seclusion, and only now did she realize that she was truly alone. Audrey began to notice things that she hadn't seen before. The house, empty of its inhabitants, seemed to have lost its essence. It had become quiet and lifeless. It felt vast and empty, like a worn-out shell devoid of a soul. A ringing silence descended upon her. Its oppressive atmosphere felt even more intense in a building as large as this. "This feels weird." She spoke out loud and shuddered at the sound of her own voice. She was surprised by the unease that had suddenly settled within her. She had never been afraid of living alone. Yes, she'd felt lonely, but solitude didn't frighten her. Audrey wandered down the hallway. She stopped near the painting depicting the inhabitants of the house. So, it really is them. They managed to live as recluses for so many years without arousing suspicion? Or maybe they erased the memories of any accidental visitors. Wise, wary eyes rendered in the oil stared back at her. How often did they have guests at all? Her thoughts were interrupted by a muffled knock on the front door. Audrey instantly felt like a little girl left alone by her parents. She wanted to hide, not poke her nose out until the strange noises stopped. How silly. Look silently through the people. Listen, I do that in real life anyway. Audrey walked softly onto the carpet. She crept towards the door. Yeah, but someone I don't know, I'll call Phil. Or go to the garden and look for the wolf. But she didn't have to carry out those plans. There was a familiar voice behind the door. When no one answered, the guests began to leave a voice message. "I don't think I mixed up the date and time, Mikhail, but apparently something pulled you away from the house." Audrey flung open the door. Malik cut his message off mid-sentence, and he hung up and grinned broadly. "Audrey, where's your boss? It's so unprofessional to schedule a meeting with me and then disappear." "Mikhail had some business to attend to. He's not at home." Did something happen?" His concern had no effect on her. She lied without hesitation. "Maybe he really did forget about you. What Astrea needs is a secretary." "And what about your other colleagues?" "Your meeting is with Mikhail. Why are you so curious about everyone's whereabouts?" She shrugged and smiled mysteriously. "Who knows? The house is huge. I don't keep track of them." To avoid telling any more lies, she changed the subject. "Did you find anything interesting?" "I found an old abandoned church and wanted to invite him on a date." "A church of a beast?" "Possibly." Audrey wasn't sure how, but she felt like this might actually help move the search forward. "That's great news. We could check out the church ourselves, since Mikhail is busy at the moment." The smile slowly faded from her face. Meanwhile, Malik seemed to become even more amused. "You could bring one of your colleagues along. If you can find them in such a huge house, of course." Did he figure out that I was lying? Everyone has a tale. Audrey decided to stick to her story and not give in. "Let's invite Fel, in case we run into something dangerous there." "I'd be delighted, Audrey." Go get ready. I'll give her a call." Audrey practically dashed upstairs. Malik waited at the doorway, like an evil creature that can't enter without invitation. "Ah, have you figured out his identity yet, did you?" Audrey stifled a nervous laugh. She left a message for Mikhail. She called Fel to check if her outing with Malik would interrupt anything important. She tried to keep her voice as neutral as possible. It didn't work out well. It felt like Fell's slender fingers were once again pressing against the nape of her neck. The words lodged in her heart throbbed with a dull pain. Fell replied coldly, curtly, of course, she would join them. That was the end of her preparations. Audrey took a quick look at herself in the mirror and then went downstairs. A small Gothic building nestled away from prying eyes in a dense forest. The southern part of the city was known for its old chapels. It had embraced this structure as one of its own. Beautiful. The only thing that faintly hinted at its true nature were the unusual red stained-glass windows. Fell carefully inspected the inside of the church, and then she began to check the surroundings with a couple of police officers. Malik and Audrey stayed to examine the interior, a potential site of worship for the beast. Where should I start? Inspect the altars. Audrey approached one of the statues and took a closer look. It appeared that a sacrificial liquid had once flowed from its marble mouth. The brownish stains resembled rust, but they were clearly something else. I'm certain that blood flowed into these bowls. A lot of it. I suppose it suits the beast. Examine the pedestal. Good thing we're going in order. The unusual pedestal in the center of the hall looked regal and imposing. It was clearly meant for someone very important. Thin grooves led to it from the altars, intertwining in the intricate patterns. Do you think they put victims in the center? I think the altars were for sacrifices. The pedestal was probably for whoever the sacrifices were made to. The followers gazed into this circle and waited for their god. Look at the walls and finish the inspection. Audrey walked slowly along the walls. She tried to figure out what language the unfamiliar words were written in. I used to know a good cryptographer. We could really use her knowledge. The walls depict methods of worship. What are they? Nothing out of the ordinary. Life, death, murder, orgies. Very ordinary. Yeah, sounds about right. Even though there's no sign of the beast here, I still really think Mikkel should take a look at this place. Malik ran his hand thoughtfully over the marble skin of a statue, as if wiping away invisible tears. The professor's wistful mood stirred other thoughts. You're a collector, right? Are you interested in controversial religions as well? He removed his hand from the lifeless face and put it back in his pocket. Controversial being someone had their throat slit here? Let's say that's why. There aren't many religions in the world that aren't built on blood and bones, you know. Does that make them controversial? All the bones that have been buried long ago, they spilled blood, and it's been absorbed by the earth. Pick any one of them. It'll be both right and wrong at the same time. It becomes impossible for her to hold back a tactless question. Who do you believe in? He smiled and leaned forward. Myself. And just a little bit in people. Oh, you have more faith than me. Yeah. He echoed each word with a step. On the last, he stepped close to her. His whisper touched her ear. Shall we go, or shall we stay here a little longer? Oh, I always have one answer to a question like that. Let's talk some more. Wonderful. The satisfaction on the professor's face sent shivers down her spine. Attention! The most expensive choice will have a romantic tone for those who... Okay, alright, calm down. For those who are pursuing a relationship with Malik. Otherwise, the dialogue will be friendly and you'll discuss the MC's childhood. Interesting. So what do you want to talk about? Ah. Interesting. There aren't many options. Yeah, but here's the thing is I want to do all the diamond choices. I would like to say I really, really dig the artwork. Talk about his belief in himself. Why not? Let's indulge him. Interesting smirk. So you believe in yourself like others believe in God? Does that make you a supporter of anthropotheism? How charming, Audrey. Is a concept of equating humans and deities and attributing divine qualities to them. No, I really appreciate your attempt to divine my views. And I respect this little weakness of yours, the desire to give everything a name. Everything that has a name becomes more understandable, safer, right? But everything that is nameless and faceless terrifies us. Malik smiled tenderly, almost fatherly. He spread out his hands. Well, if you want, let it be so. We are all equal in the beginning, only our actions at levels higher or lower. Man creates God in their own image, Audrey. That's why we have such a wide selection. The conversation energized the professor. His eyes lit up with a fanatical gleam. The selection is wide, indeed. But only in theory. What about in essence? In essence, there should be a casting call for the place of God. The most worthy should sit at the top. Do you think any of us has the right to stand on that pedestal? What is the beast or God? Which one is it? Homo homini est. The phrase was familiar to her. She completed it. Latin for man. Man is a god to man if he knows his duties? Malik responded with a smile and stepped on the center of the pedestal. If he can give what is asked of him... There was a click under his feet, and the pedestal sank. Old, rusty machinery rattled above the heads of the visitors in the church. Dust and grit fell like a gray rain. Audrey shielded her eyes with her hand. She squinted and looked up. Red mirrors appeared in the center of the ceiling. Trapped rays of sunlight quivered into the room and converged on one spot. The professor. Ooh, ominous. The red light falling on his face resembled blood and made his figure look ominous. Do I look like a god? Audrey couldn't tell if he was joking or being serious. Did he want an answer, or was he simply trying to evoke some sort of emotion in her? Or maybe it didn't matter if there was anyone in front of him at all. Maybe he was addressing himself. Audrey didn't understand how the mechanism worked, but the shadows cast by the statues were growing. They spread across the walls, rising like giants above her and the man who fancied himself a god. Is that why you help everyone in need? Do you believe that by doing so, you become a higher being to them? That's right, Audrey. I give them far more than just hope. If I were truly a god, people would kneel before me out of their own unbearable desire, not out of fear. It's the true essence of a higher being, the desire of others to submit to it. Gratitude, adoration. I give them what they want and here now, rather than promising them joy later. Just a few days ago, Audrey might have agreed with him, but now... You're so sure that there is no hell or heaven waiting for us? Yes, Audrey. Afterward, there will be nothing, emptiness and decay. We will all return to where we came. Dust, turn to dust, rise from the ashes, only to return to dust again. Malik couldn't suppress a delighted smile. Audrey didn't know what the strings of his soul she had touched, but Malik's voice actually sounded like a song. Everything has an end, my dear Audrey. So, live now. Serve only yourself, or serve the one who can give you everything you desire. Audrey fell silent. She was completely confused by his worldview. It was hard to believe in Malik's humanism. But he wasn't a narcissist either. There seemed to be something else driving him. Or maybe I don't understand him at all. Malik stepped down from the pedestal and the red glow disappeared. Malik has shared his deepest thoughts with you. You can still talk to Malik. You know, I was trying to read that. You could space that out just by another second. Okay, talk about the OGs and the sacrifices. It was a curious topic, even if it was a slippery one. It certainly fueled people's imaginations for a reason. How do you know what exactly is written on the walls? What language is this? Look around, Audrey. It's not hard to guess what went on here. I wouldn't have figured it out without your hint. Bro, it's every cult does it. Every cult. Really? Then I'll tell you more. It's obvious that they didn't slit throats in this room. The executioners did it quietly and without unnecessary noise before they needed a lot of blood. It's not easy to fill such a deep bowl. And there's no space for bodies here. Audrey grimaced. Malik smiled. This was a place of debauchery. I say debauchery because I doubt that the process had any other goal other than the satisfaction of lust. Are you judging them? Of course not. Lust is perhaps the most pleasant sin. I am certainly not sinless myself. How do I judge the lustful? Within these walls they moaned, they writhed, they unleashed animal passions and gave in to every desire. Imagine your dirtiest fantasy. Here they don't put you on your knees to whip your lowest thoughts out of you. Here they put you on your knees to bring your fantasy to life. Malik loosened his tie with deliberate slowness. Audrey imagined kneeling before him. She imagined his tie tightening around her neck like his commanding hands pulling her towards him. Pulling so hard that she had to find herself balanced against him somewhere at the trouser level. Her fingers felt the cold metal of the buckle. Such a vivid, lively fantasy. Audrey heard the faint click of his belt. It promised bliss to at least one of them. A wave of heat swept through her body. Damn. For a moment, she thought she had given herself away with a random breath, glance, or movement. Her dirty, secret thoughts escaped and managed to reach the one they were addressed to. Damn provocateur. He knows what I'll think about. The desire to repay him in kind became overwhelming, to make him blush and feel awkward instead. Audrey glanced meaningfully at his tie, smiled innocently. Did your own stories make you feel hurt? It was the opportunities unfolding before me. Innocent, unspoiled, yet so eager to correct that misconception. Is he talking about me? She licked her lips nervously, and that gives you away. A little more and I'll decide that you're trying to seduce me, Malik. You know that's exactly what I'm doing. I know it. Shall we try being honest for a change? What a snake. Do you want to pin me down that badly? The statement was deliberately ambiguous. Malik understood it. Don't tease me, Audrey. I don't like to hold back, and I don't know how. If there's something you want, tell me directly. I'll give it to you. Audrey burned with indignation. She parted her lips. How presumptuous. Right now. And right here. If you want something, take it. How convenient. So we don't care about your desires, then? I was sure Malik would play along, wouldn't go any further. But, with a predatory tilt of his head, he whispered, Only a fool wouldn't want you. And I don't consider myself a fool. She believed that just one word could take their strange relationship to another level. Without commitment. Don't rush, Audrey. Figure yourself out. But next time, don't start this conversation if you plan to back out. Malik didn't wait for an answer. He ended the subject himself. Malik will return to this topic. think carefully about how to respond. Malik is happy that you're starting to get closer to him. Why are you helping us? Why do you spend your time on us? Because I want to. All of you fascinate me immensely. You and your colleagues. Malik emphasized the last word, which made her uncomfortable. It's my fault that he's so interested in them. No, I think he was interested before, though. Audrey hasn't brought up the subject of angels again after the hypnosis session. But she was well aware that Malik remembered everything. Did he believe that Raphael's an angel? She didn't want to clarify. I've already told him so many unnecessary things. It's better if he thinks I'm delusional. The prolonged silence was broken by an unexpected confession from him. I grew up in a monastery. The only entertainment I had was stories my mother told me. What were those stories about? About people, so different yet so similar. You could say she gave me this fascination with the fates of others, and I'm willing to fight for every soul. I'm ready to give everyone a chance. With a sly smile, Malik whispered, "But only one. My mercy isn't limitless either." I wish I had his ego. He enjoys gradually opening up to you. Your relationship has improved. Like how she says, there aren't many options. We went through all of them, let's go. Short, sweet, to the point, like a cake. There was nothing else to talk about. Malik sensed this. He gave her a meaningful look in the direction of the door. The police must be waiting for us out by now. Fell was indeed finished inspecting the area, and she entered the church herself. On her way to them, she answered the obvious question before they could voice it. We found a cellar full of human remains. You'd better return to Astrea. Oh. Okay. Everything caught on fire. Fell's words suddenly breathed life into their surroundings and made the atmosphere threatening. All speculation became a deafening reality. Yeah, it was a sacrificial chamber. Audrey imagined candles lighting up around her as thick blood poured from the statue's mouth. She heard faint cries, pleas, the sharp smells that made her dizzy. A cool hand touched her wrist and brought her back to reality. Audrey, come on. I'll take you home. I'm driving, Fell. I still need to meet with Malik. Fell unclenched her fingers reluctantly and nodded. Fine. So it's what you envisioned, okay. I was like, wow. Sometime later. I was like, it's about to get interesting. Audrey waited for her colleagues to return as she processed yet another shot. She tried to imagine what the cellar full of remains would mean for the agency. How Furious and Somnus would react to it. If it could have been prevented. Who should I report this to first? Mikkel, he's your superior. Somnus and Furious are his superior. He hired me. He's my boss. That is arguably the right decision. Audrey, you're gripping that cup so hard it's going to crack. The voice pulled her out of one train of thought and immediately led her to another. How did you even find the church? I have many friends, the kind that dwell at the very bottom. They navigate the dark perfectly. They know the seedy places you couldn't even dream of. And you stand above them like a king. Mikkel won't be satisfied with that explanation. I'll explain it to him differently. The cup in her hand suddenly began to tremble slightly. What? The end of her sentence was drowned out by the sound of the front door slamming into the wall. Audrey jumped to her feet. Malik got up unhurriedly after her. Does Mikhail always make such a dramatic entrance? Audrey ignored the professor's question and stepped into the hallway. In before its Furious. Malik stood just behind her. He looked at the Astreans who had burst into the house without hiding his curiosity. Their gazes were drawn to to Mikhail, or rather to the object he held in his hands. A spear? David and Cassiel emerged from behind their leader. They glared at Malik with undisguised hostility. They froze on either side of Malik like dogs waiting for a command. It was unsettling. Malik, I don't have time to talk today. Let me guess, that's the spear that pierced Christ. You're going to have to leave. Malik didn't seem to notice the threat. Either that or he was expertly playing a role of saintly innocence. He stepped forward with a radiant smile. Of course, I wouldn't dare take up your time. Besides, I'm sure Phil would tell you everything and more. We can discuss the price later. Before leaving, Malik turned to the evaluator. I'll be eagerly waiting our next meeting, Audrey. As soon as the guest left, Astrea, the team, followed Mikhail into his office. When his pace brought him next to the evaluator, David placed his hand on her wrist and pulled her close. I don't like that show-off Malik hanging around you. I hardly get to see you myself. How's that fair? Audrey slipped from his grasp and narrowed her eyes playfully. You're the one who keeps disappearing, David. You used to be much bolder. You used to barge into my room without asking, and now you hide from me in the corners. As he let her pass, David brushed his lips against her ear and whispered, I heard you, little witch. Mikhail leaned the spear against the table. He turned to Cassiel. Until we find a new secure location, you'll have to patrol the grounds. No one must enter the house. And I'm asking you too, Audrey, no more guests. Mikhail didn't wait for a response. She understood that this wasn't a request. It was an order. David, check our backup locations. Find out what the situations are there. Keeping the spear here is not safe. The sooner we move it, the better. There was no need for him to repeat himself. Audrey's colleagues nodded and left the office. Where is Raphael? She was now alone with the boss and immediately bombarded him with questions. What happened? Where's Raphael? He's fine. He just needs to recover after a difficult encounter. What kind of encounter? He didn't hide his fatigue. He closed his eyes and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Mikhail, you promised. He was caught by his own words, and he relented. All right, Audrey. I can show you what happened, or I can tell you briefly. Show me. Very well, come closer and look into my eyes. Audrey recalled what Phil had said. Can you really read memories in their eyes? Come on, Audrey. His icy voice quickly erased any doubt from her mind. Audrey got up lightly and quickly. Soon she was standing next to the boss. He sat on the edges of the table to make it easier for her. He took her hand and pulled her closer. Audrey didn't even have time to think about what she was supposed to see. The office suddenly disappeared. His gray eyes pulled her into a vortex. A moment later, she found herself in a completely different place. Oh. Well, this is a friendly place. Old, ungathered leaves crunched beneath Mikhail's feet, breaking the silence of the mournful place. The acolytes who used to greet the immortals with bowed heads did not come out to bow this time. They were hanging from the trees. How curious. Did they do it themselves, or... Mikhail gave them a look that spoke a single message. Their leader isn't here. The church doors burst open and a man stepped out. Well, he seems to have changed a bit since we last saw him. The man was cursing, trembling all over as he hurried towards them. You deceived us, all of us. You gave us hope, made us believe we had a chance. Mikhail looked at the approaching man with undisguised disgust. He had carved a sign into his body and had begun to etch it into his face. It begged to be scraped off, along with his skin. Where is the sphere? The man's eyes widened and he shouted louder. We're all doomed! There's a fire waiting rats. We will all die so that you creatures can rule. Damn heavenly rats. He showed us the true God. The sphere is still here. I can feel it. Mikhail slowly approached the acolyte. He held out his hands as if to calm the man. The man was surprised. Actually felt silent hope flickered across his face, but Mikhail didn't calm him with an embrace. He broke the acolyte's neck in one quick motion. He didn't even glance at the fallen body as he called over his shoulder to Raphael. Take this spear. The wind from Raphael's wings flung sand and dry leaves into the traitor's frozen face. David watched Raphael fly and remarked thoughtfully, "Did our fallen thief come here just to look at the vault? He wouldn't have been able to take it so easily. It seems more like a trap. Whether it is or not, this spear must be moved. Burn the bodies." Just to be clear, Mikhail added, "But first, get them down from the trees. We'll throw them all in one grave." The ground beneath their feet stirred as if in protest against that desecration. The dead rose to defend the newcomers, reaching out their hands in a twisted offer of help. Blackened fingers clamped around the ankles of the Astreans, pulling them down into the churning earth. What is this? Oh, wow. Full battle mode for Cassiel. I like it. The demon's eyes flared with malevolent red glow as the team prepared for battle. Heads emerged from the ground after the hands. They screamed, laughed, writhed in agony. They sank their crumbling teeth in the flesh of the unwelcome guests. They crawled up their legs, trying to reach and tear out their throats. Cassiel drew the sword and slashed wildly, but the severed limb instantly reattached itself to the dead body. David tore at the corpses with his bare hands, but still couldn't escape their grasp. It was as if the dead had burst out of a disturbed anthill. They climbed and climbed upward, dragging the men down. Their wings didn't help. The creatures clawed at them as well and began to tear off feathers. What do we do? Mikhail didn't answer. For the first time in his many years spent on Earth, he didn't know. What power can raise and animate the dead? Anger boiled inside of him. Once again, he felt betrayed. Shepha had sent them here without a single hint about what they would be facing. Who the hell is Shepha? Again, you're gonna have to tell me about that one. He had robbed them of any advantage, of any chance to prepare, and now they were drowning in a grave dirt. Their enemy was overwhelming, both in number and in their uncanny ability to regenerate. I'll call for help. The suggestion snapped Mikhail back to his senses and cooled his mind. No, don't you dare, David. It would be better if we died instead, so don't you dare. Cassiel. Cassiel's eyes filled with rage. His body was encased in black armor. The ground beneath him split open to reveal a red, fiery chasm. The dark, dense shadows nearly fell into the abyss and melted in the inferno. They were replaced by hounds that rose from the very depths of hell. Their huge paws clawed at the sand walls. The command was soft and calm, but the wolves heard it. Eat. The obedient as tame dogs, they tore the enemies to pieces and gnawed their master free. Chunks of flesh flew in all directions. The animals swallowed the juiciest parts. Help the others. Having escaped, Cassiel flew to the roof of the church to catch his breath. The hellhounds felt his gaze and responded attentively to every word. A few minutes later, David and Mikhail landed beside him. Shadows crawled after them. This is badass. They clung to the walls, climbed over each other, reaching upward. The dogs dragged them down to the ground. They tore the shadows apart with teeth and claws. But as soon as one creature was torn apart, another would take its place. Did dear old Dad ever mention that our beast could pull off tricks like this? Since when do the dead party on Earth instead of licking demons' boots in hell? They're not entirely from hell. They're from the pit. David fell silent in confusion. I can't hold them off forever. Raphael appeared silently and calmly behind them. Bro, this is awesome. I'll handle it, Cassiel. He handed the spear to Mikhail and looked pitifully at the approaching shadows. So, the beast controls souls. Poor, sinful beings. There's no peace for them anywhere. Raphael's pupils disappeared behind a white glow. It enveloped the angel, expanding and pulsating. Audrey already knew what would happen next. A bright flash blinded her for just a moment. It brought her back to Mikhail's office. Can I ask questions? Of course. I'd like to know about who's the hell Shep is. There was no thing popped up for it either. If only it was always this easy. Ask about Raphael. I'm assuming we can do all three. Is Raphael alright? Yes. He just needs time to recover. Oh, that was short. Ask about the souls. What are those souls? I'm not really familiar with the place they likely came from. We can only speculate. But clearly the beast has power over certain people, both in life and after death. If only it was always this easy. Ask about the spear. What is this spear? The spear of Longinus. It was the spear to... It is the power to ignite an apocalypse on Earth. So not the spear that pierced Christ. Okay. Audrey suddenly wished Mikhail would be a little less open with her. You're not joking, are you? I'm being serious. It's an incredibly powerful artifact. But don't worry, no one will be able to break into the house and take it from us. Bro, you barely got over... Bro, you barely got away from all those little souls that were coming after you. What's to stop that from happening here? Mikhail's words were little of comfort. So, are human prayers worth nothing? Good question. Is faith just an empty sound? Is our fate in Mikhail's hands? Bound in the metal tip of a spear? Audrey, there's nothing to worry about. We will let an apocalypse happen. Everything will be fine. Do you hear me? Her legs simply couldn't hold up under such a heavy burden anymore. Does the beast crave the end of the world? It craves a new world. But creating a new world means the death of the old. Wonderful. Mikhail glanced cautiously at the evaluator, and he smiled at her composure. You're handling this remarkably well. In Astrea, I think about death so much that maybe it's just not so scary anymore. And if what you say is true, then I really did die for a moment. That night, when Raphael saved me. Why not call this the end of the world? After a little more silence, he stood up. If you have no more questions... Audrey remembered, fell in the promise she had made to her. I have one request for you. She didn't have a speech prepared, so she had to improvise on the fly. I know how you feel about Fel, and understand that a lot of it is justified, but please try to help her. She just wants to know that her family is alright. Nothing more. Is that really so much to ask? He took no pleasure in this conversation. Audrey... Just think about it. Please. For my sake. He nodded without answering verbally, but that was enough. Fearing that he might change his mind, Audrey thanked him and quickly said goodbye. Audrey didn't even try to fight her thoughts anymore as she lay in bed. There are so many of them. Let them decide among themselves what I'll worry about tonight. She imagined falling asleep under Somnus's watchful gaze if he agreed to help. Oh, God. Surprisingly, falling asleep became easier. No nightmare can compare to that snake. Audrey closed her eye, or enjoyed her solitude and closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come quickly this time. It was only in the dead of the night that exhaustion set in. Her father met her in a field. Yeah, I saw the corpses. They had plenty of time, but he still wouldn't waste it. Whose side have you taken? Audrey was lost in his voice. She dissolved into his righteous anger, shrinking into a lump. Her father liked that, but this time he needed answers. One specific answer, to be exact. You can still fix it. It's not too late. You can choose the true path. Listen to him, listen to the beast, follow his call. The amulet Castle had given her didn't just warm her skin, it burned, causing additional suffering. For some reason, she couldn't wake up this time. She sobbed. She addressed her father with a trembling voice. You're sick. You're just a nightmare. God exists and he will punish you. Hello, Coffee. How are you? I need to think about this one for a second. The one thing I never seem to get in my own dreams, it's weird. God exists and he will punish you, why not? Now that I know for certain, Father, how dare you force the faith of those creatures upon me? Everything will burn to ashes, everyone you love will die. Your new friends don't care about this world, don't care about humans. They don't even care about you. They're trash beneath their feet. Oh, we open your eyes and see where they're leading you. Her father grabbed his daughter by the hair and dragged her along the ground behind him. He threw her to the edge of the precipice. Audrey clawed at the blood-soaked earth and howled. I mean, you're not doing any better to convince her, dude, you're really shitty at this job, aren't you? The endless, vast pit was filled to the brim with corpses. It had no bottom, no edge. It was only terror frozen in glassy eyes. This is the price of your new faith. Count! Choking on tears, she obeyed. Every number she uttered echoed with sharp pain in her heart, because each one carried a life that had been cut short. Audrey was terrified by the disfigured face as she squeezed her eyes shut painfully when the faces were familiar. She would stumble and start counting all over again. Again and again. The night was truly endless. Her eyes were red with tears and clouded by haze. Wait, what the hell are you holding? This is just a dream. Another dream. Just a little longer, and I'll wake up. Audrey slowly walked forward. She dragged the spear behind her. A thin blade scraped against the floor, but none of the inhabitants reacted to the screeching sound. Because I'm asleep. I'm asleep. Her legs wouldn't obey her. They carried her towards the bedroom of their own accord. Audrey tried to stop them, but her body didn't belong to her. The door creaked softly, yielding to her trembling hand. She wanted to sigh loudly, to reveal herself. But a deafening roar was the only sound. It echoed only in her head. Now save this world from destruction. Drive the spear through Raphael's heart, Audrey. Do it! The trembling with fear, Audrey approached the bed. The metal of the spear gleamed in the moonlight, poised above the sleeping angel. Wake up. Wake up. I'm begging you. Alright, so we got 3 faith, 1 skepticism, 2 reputation, diamonds. Interesting episode. If you guys did enjoy, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, we're caught up. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Look, we cannot play. It says January, so all of you need to calm down. Okay? So, without further ado, today was the first episode of Soulless. Check that out. Otherwise, there's plenty of other things to cover. Okay? Pretty much these are the books so far that I've tapped into and started to play. As you can see here, 3 of them are currently on development. That means that's it. Like, we've caught up to it. So I'm still trying to catch up. Still trying to also do the new things that I know a lot of you are interested in, and then catch up on some of the old ones that were done. Again, once we're caught up on Kali and a few of these other ones in development, again, this is the beginning of December, so we have a whole entire month before new things come out. So during this month, it is my pledge, my dedication, to, at the very least, catch up on all of these things. So with Kali, we're halfway done, and then that's it, besides doing the prequel. Soulless, 2 seasons, I know. 7 Brothers, I have a few episodes to catch up on. Haze, same thing. Thunderstorm, I think only a couple came out with this past update, and then I have like 1 more of that, and I think I'm done. So, again, stay tuned for that, and then we'll move on to the other books that I'm trying to get on to, that, you know, again, one of which is Soulless. So, again, trying to catch up. Otherwise, thanks for watching, love your beautiful faces, catch you on the next video, peace!